Good afternoon, lords and ladies. This is Tony, the other half of King's Table Gaming. I am here with a $35 Katsu Blitz deck. We're going to take a look at a couple of combo lines with Katsu, hopefully build you a nice aggressive deck, and show you some cool tech along the way. As sort of a recap here, why do we choose $35? We feel like that's a really great starting point to get into something that we feel like is going to be pretty competitive but still has some room to grow. As always, we would encourage you guys, if you are just starting out and still new to the game, meet with some people at your local game store. Find people that are already playing the game. A lot of the cards in this deck are going to be things that people are going to have in their bulk bin. If they're not playing Katsu, if they're not already playing Ninja, they probably have full play sets of a lot of this stuff just from opening packs and trades and things like that. So find some people that already have some of the cards you're looking for. See if they can help you get some really good deals. They might have this whole thing at a very reasonable price, and you might even be able to beat $35 without trying too terribly hard. If you have exhausted all of your friends and your new acquaintances, the next step is to go to some of the local game stores that have an online presence. And so things like MinMax, Star City Games, TCG Players are a really good one for you to be able to find some of these cards, get a good price at them. $35 if you're going to order everything from one online retailer is probably going to get you free shipping. If you go to TCG Player, you're probably going to miss out on that free shipping because you're going to be you'll end up ordering that from a lot of different vendors. And so that's kind of one of the price point issues there. That's kind of my only hang up with TCG Player is you end up paying more in shipping, and that cuts down on your budget for some of the cool cards. You got to cut out some of the shinies and the foils. But we're going to take a look at a couple of the combo lines here that we're going to be featuring in this deck, and then also take a look at some of the cool tech pieces here. So let's take a look at the deck here. So here I am in February. This is going to be available. We've got this entire list available for you guys down in the description. So of course we're starting here with Katsu. Katsu's ability reads, the first time an attack action card you control hits each turn, you may discard a card with cost 0. If you do, search your deck for a card with combo, banish it, and then shuffle. You may play that card this turn. And so what that allows us to do is, once we've hit with any of these other cards, and this will be really useful once we're into the combo, we can discard any card with a 0 cost. So here, Ancestral Empowerment, this is our cost up here. That's going to allow us to discard any of these types of cards with 0 cost and trade those in basically for any of our other cards that are part of the combo that we're trying to build here. So as far as Katsu goes, he has this tutor ability that allows us to hopefully build out our combo lines and swing for at least one or maybe two really big hits during the game. For our equipment, so we're going to go Breeze Rider Boots. When a ninja attack action card you control hits, you may destroy Breeze Rider Boots. If you do, attack action cards with combo gain Go Again this turn. So that combo is a key word that we're going to see on a lot of these cards if you're still new to the game. Ninja is the only class that has that combo keyword so far. And so this is going to be really specific to Katsu as well as some of the other ninjas that you'll see. And then Go Again allows us to play multiple cards in a turn. So some of the cards will automatically have Go Again. Some of the cards will have conditional Go Again, and we'll take a look at that. But this gives us the ability to sort of shortcut that Go Again on our combo turns. And it also, in some very specific scenarios, allows us to extend a combo out 1 or 2 cards longer than what we would normally see, and that can be really helpful as well. Sometimes we've got a combo that might be a lot of damage, but the opponent has blocked really well, and so having this additional Go Again might allow us to edge in 1 or maybe even 2 more attack cards, and that's either going to press on some additional damage or potentially bleed out some extra cards from the opponent so that they have to take a turn off. Deep Blue is our chest piece here. Put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck, destroy Deep Blue, gain 3 resources, and Go Again. This card is good. It's not wonderful, but it does the job. What we're looking for here is to be able to start our combo off with this and not have to pay resources for it. In a classic constructed, the better option for this doesn't force us to drop a card, put a card at the bottom of our deck, but that card is banned in Blitz, so the Heart and Cross strap is banned in Blitz. We can't use it here. So this is kind of the next best thing. Another option here, I can't remember if I've got it. It doesn't look like I do. Another option would be the Spring Tunic. That also doesn't require us to give up a card, but it only gives us one resource. So our combo starts off needing 2 resources. This Surging Strike here costs us 2. And so this allows us to start that pretty quickly and hopefully be able to manage that without bleeding too many cards. Our arm piece here is Goliath Gauntlet. Destroy Goliath Gauntlet. The next attack action card with cost 2 or greater you play this turn gains +2. Go again. So that allows us to start our combo off with a really big attack. So if we're playing red Surging Strike, this 5 becomes a 7. One of the reasons I really like this is that most people, if they've played against Katsu, they know that Surging Strike is the beginning of that combo line. And so often what they'll do is they'll take the hit from Surging Strike so that they can block some of the pieces further down the line. Because those are the ones with the on-hits. Surging Strike is a big hit, but it doesn't have any on-hit triggers. It doesn't have anything else that happens once it hits. It's just 2 for 5, go again. And so what I like to do with that Goliath Gauntlet is this becomes a 2 for 7, and it sort of changes the way that people think about blocking, because especially in Blitz, 7 represents almost half of your life for some heroes, a third of your life for most heroes. And so if this is the very first card that you play here, if that represents 7 damage, they have to decide, are they going to block, or are they going to take a chance on some of the cards further down the line. And it just changes the way they think about it. I really like that kind of mind game side of this. And so Goliath Gauntlet, I feel like, is a really solid pick for this. It's a really great card to begin with either way. And so it's a really great way to add a little bit of extra damage in a deck. Often with these ninjas, it's a 0 cost or a 1 cost attack, and so you don't really get to see a lot of value in Goliath Gauntlet. But if you pick this up for this deck, that's something that you're going to have in your collection for later as well. Our weapons here, we've got the Harmonized Kodachis for Katsu. This is the classic Katsu line for weapons here. Once per turn action, pay 1 resource and attack. If you have a card in your pitch zone with cost 0, Harmonized Kodachi has go again. This does not turn on some of the on-hits, so like Katsu here requires it to be an attack action card. These are not attack action cards, and so they do cost an action, they do attack, but they're weapons. So they don't trigger that hero ability, but they do allow us to build up some longer chains. And often people will let these come through because they don't want to block a single attack or a single damage attack with something that's a 2 block or a 3 block. So it's a good way to sort of chip away some damage early in the game. And then for Mask here, for our headpiece, Mask of Shifting Perspectives. As an attack reaction, destroy Mask of Shifting Perspectives. Whenever a dagger hits this turn, you may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw a card. And then the second piece of this is Blade Break, so it does block for 1. And when the combat chain closes, if this defended, destroy it. So this represents 1 additional life point for us through the game. And then this here allows us to dig through our deck a little bit. If we're having some trouble getting the pieces for our combo, this can be an opportunity for us to dig through and try to find something maybe that we're going to arsenal so that we can play next turn, or potentially just to find something where we can kind of Kodachi, and then a 3rd attack. This is a really great way for us to filter through that. So that is our equipment suite. I do have a sideboard equipment here. So Breaking Scales, this is the classic ninja arm piece for Katsu. Destroy Breaking Scales, target attack action card with combo gains +1. This is also really great. This is great in part because it is an attack reaction. So you can attack with something that has that combo keyword in the text. they block, let's say you're attacking for 4, they block for 4, you can use this and push just one piece of damage over, and that gets you a little bit of, if there's an on hit there, you gain some of the on hits, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And then the other piece of this is that it does block for 1 and it's battle worn. It's one of the few pieces for ninjas that does have that battle worn. And that means that even if you use it to block once, you still get the action of the card. So this is another really great card that you can think of for that arm piece, depending on the matchup, depending on where you feel most comfortable. I have played with Breaking Scales, and I've also played with Goliath Gauntlet. I like them both. I think that Goliath Gauntlet, if you're going to start that combo off really strong, that can be really helpful. At the very least, you're pushing some additional damage through. And then I've also got some Null Rune here. So Null Rune Gloves, Arcane Barrier 1, and then Null Rune Robe, same thing. If you're in a matchup where you're playing against a Rune Blade or a Wizard, these can be a really great option to tech in, just to give you a little bit of an edge against somebody who's using that arcane damage. And then Tide Flippers, again, this is the same thing. It's got that Arcane Barrier 1, so it can get us some additional Arcane Barrier. The other thing here is that it does give an attack action card with 2 or less base attack go again. So this can be really good, like I said, for extending that combo line out. We'll take a look at where this is going to be really good for a ninja, but that's our equipment suite here. Let's take a look at the deck and see where we are here. So the first card here is Ancestral Empowerment. This is like an auto include for most ninjas. This is a really, really valuable card in the game. So 0 cost, it can be used with Katsu's ability. It can block for 3 if you do need to block with it. And then it says here, ninja attack action card, target ninja attack action card gains +1. So it's that same thing as Breaking Scales, where as a reaction, we get to increase 1, press a little damage through. And then it does allow us to draw a card. So a big piece of Katsu working here is we need to be able to filter through our deck quite a bit to find the different combo pieces. And then the other thing we need to do, the more cards that we can play out, the longer we can make that attack chain, that combat chain, the more likely we are to be able to press that damage through and hopefully end the game on a couple of big combos, really push some big damage through that our opponent won't be able to block. So this is a great way to extend that out and give us maybe 1 or depending on the other cards you have, 2 additional attacks on our combo line. Be Like Water. This one, this is sort of a polarizing one. So it says here, when this hits, you may pay 1 resource. If you do, choose Head Jab, Surging Strike, or Twin Twisters. This gains the chosen name, and then it has automatic go again. So this attacks for 3. If it hits, you can change the name of it. So this is really good because it gives us an additional combo starter. So this can gain the name Surging Strike, and then if we look at some of the other pieces of our combo here, Descendant Gust Wave looks for the last attack to be named Surging Strike. So this sort of acts like an additional Surging Strike, or 2 additional Surging Strikes in our deck. What I find it most useful for is not actually that. Again, I think that this forces people to potentially give us a card, because this only gains the name Surging Strike if it hits and we pay 1 resource. And so in a lot of scenarios I see where I get to play this and they're going to block it. They block for 3 and I don't get to change the name of it. But I did pull a card out of their hand, so they can't use that on their turn. I've seen a lot of value there with this. I've also seen a lot of value with this as that card that I use for Katsu's ability. So this is a 0 cost card that I can use to discard and then tutor a combo piece out. So this is a good one. I know some people really dislike it because it does have that on hit only trigger, but I still think that it represents good value. It only blocks for 2. I wish that it blocked for 3. We're sort of in a position where this deck has a lot more 2 blocks than I would prefer, but I do find that it still does pretty well most of the time. Instead of jumping into Bonds of Ancestry, what I'm going to do is kind of work through the combo line itself. So both of our combo lines, we got 2 lines in here. They both start with Surging Strike, and we've got 2 reds and 2 yellows of that. So that gives us 4 options here. So the Surging Strike here, it's a 2 for 5 with Go Again. Nothing special happening here. Again, another 2 block. Wish this was a 3 block, but I understand. You give too much power to ninjas and we would rule the whole game. So this really represents just the beginning of our combo lines. We want to have this available. This is a really great card as we're starting to filter through to be able to Arsenal and then play from Arsenal. I'll show you part of why that is here in just a moment. But this can be a 2 for 5 with the Goliath Gauntlet. It becomes a 2 for 7. It's a really good strong start to our combo line. And this is what is the rest of the cards are going to be looking for. So Surging Strike, we've got both of those. The yellow, we give up a point of attack for the additional point of pitch there. The second piece in our main line here is going to be Descendant Gustwave. So this here is a 1 for 3, but it does have that combo line. So that's where some of our other cards that look for combo can be brought up. So if Surging Strike was the last attack this combat chain, this costs 1 less, so it becomes free. And it has +2. So now it is a 0 for 5 with Go Again. So that represents some pretty big damage that is going to cost our opponent 2 cards to attempt to block. Or they're going to have to let it come through, which is fine either way. So this one we've got 2 reds and then just 1 yellow. Because it's not our starter, we don't need as many of these. We don't want our hand getting clogged up with Bonds of Ancestry. And so... the Descendant Gustwave. We've only got 3 of those. That's our step 2 in our combo here. The step 3 in our combo, third one, is this Bonds of Ancestry. This one is a 2 for 4. This one does block for 3, which is really nice. And it says here, combo, if a card with Gustwave in its name was the last attack this combat chain, this costs 2 less to play. So that becomes free. And has Go Again. So again, that's going to allow us to continue to draw out our chain. And it says here, when this attacks, you may banish a card with combo, so that specific keyword there, from your graveyard. If you do, search your deck for a card with the same name, banish it, then shuffle. You may play it this combat chain. So this is a really great way, if we have already played out this combo line once, to potentially play it out a second time. It also allows us to have some of those extenders that I had talked about earlier. So we can use this to search for the closer for this combo line, which is Dishonor. So if we've got Dishonor in our discard pile already, we can search for it, banish that card, and then that's going to allow us to search through our deck to find the second copy of Dishonor and be able to play that. So Dishonor here, this is a Majestic. It's only in blue, so we can't run multiple colors of it. It is a 0 cost, 2 attack, 3 block. And it says if Bonds of Ancestry was the last attack this combat chain, this has +2, so now it becomes a 0 for 4. And then when this hits a hero, if you control Surging Strike, Descendant Gustwave, and Bonds of Ancestry, all 3 of those on the combat chain, that hero loses all abilities for the rest of the game. So this can be really powerful against some very specific heroes. If you're going against a hero that doesn't rely heavily on their hero ability, like Dash, who starts the game off with their hero ability triggering and then never uses it the rest of the game, that's not going to be terribly helpful for us. But there are some heroes that rely very heavily on their ability. If we're in a mirror match against another Katsu, that's going to really shut down some of their issues, some of their plays. If we're going against an Azalea player, that's going to cause some really big issues with Azalea, and Azalea is huge right now. If we're going against a Lexi, that can be sort of a 50-50. Sometimes it's going to be really helpful. Sometimes it's not going to be super great. So this can be really, really good against heroes that rely on their hero ability. This shuts that down for the rest of the game. All the rest of the time that you guys are playing, that's gone. And so this is really good. Plus, it represents 4. This is the card that I think for a lot of people is the reason why they're going to run Breaking Scales. Because as an attack reaction, I can give it that +1 additional damage. And if they've blocked 4, I can push one more on, get that hit, and be able to connect to get that on-hit trigger, removing their hero ability. So I understand why it's there. I've played both ways, and I think that both are really, really great. One of the main reasons that I don't play Breaking Scales is because I am playing Silverwood Shuriken. And so this is that same effect as an attack reaction. Destroy Silverwind Shuriken. Target attack action card with combo gains +1. The downside of this is that you have to get it out of your deck, you have to play it, and then you get to do this later. So this, you have to plan ahead, and it takes a little bit more setup. I have not yet had any issue with getting this set up, as I've played this both in a CC and then also in the Blitz format. I feel like there's a pretty good chance you're going to end up with it. So still good to have around. So that is our first combo line here. So Surging Strike into Descendant Gustwave, into Bonds of Ancestry, and then finally with Dishonor. The next one that we're going to be looking for here is also going to be starting with Surging Strike. The second step here is going to be Whelming Gustwave. So we've got 2 reds and 2 blues. This is a really great one to have as a blue because it pitches for 3. It's a 0 cost. So it turns on our Kodachi Go Again. And then also, because it's a 0 cost, it is usable for Katsu's ability. And then it also blocks for 3. So it's a really great card. The red here is a 0 for 3 attack. And it says combo, if Surging Strike was the last attack this combat chain, Whelming Gustwave gains +1, go again, and if this hits, draw a card. So this is a really great card in that line. You go Surging Strike into Whelming Gustwave. This becomes a 0 for 4. It has go again, and then we get to add another card into our hand. So that's another opportunity for us to potentially Katsu ability into another card in this combat chain, or in this combo. So this is a really great one. This is also a great card just to be able to play at any point in time. 0 for 3, doesn't cost you anything. It represents either 3 damage, which is not insignificant, or it represents a card out of their hand. So always a good card to have. The next piece of this is Mugenshi Release. And so this one here is a specialization. It does cost 1, and it says combo, if Whelming Gustwave was the last attack this combat chain, Mugenshi Release gains +1, so it becomes a 1 for 5. It gains go again, and if this hits, search your deck for any number of cards named Lord of Wind, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. And so I only keep one of these. We're not going to run Mugenshi Release in most of the rest of the game. It's just if we have that opportunity for the Surging Strike, Whelming Gustwave, we can Katsu tutor for this card, bring it out, and then this card automatically has, if it hits, we get the next piece out. So it makes that line pretty easy to be able to do, typically to be able to get your cards out. So this is really great. A 1 for 5 is a really solid rate for Ninja, and then with the go again. And then the final piece of this one here is that Lord of Wind. So this says, if Mugenshi Release was the last attack this combat chain, you may pay X resource points as an additional cost to play Lord of Wind. If you do, shuffle X target cards named Surging Strike, Whelming Gustwave, and or Mugenshi Release from your graveyard into your deck. Then Lord of Wind gains +X. So what we do here is Mugenshi Release says grab as many of these Lord of Winds as you want. We've got 2 of them. And so typically I'll just use these as pitch cards through the game. Then I know they're going to stay in my deck. And then we grab both of these, we play one, and then we use the other one to pitch for it. And so we can pitch up to 3 so long as we have 3 of these cards. So we need the Surging Strike, Whelming Gustwave, or Mugenshi Release. So if we've already played out either of our combo lines so far, we can typically find at least 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 of these, put those back into our deck, and then this gives us the ability to increase this from a 0 for 2 to potentially a 0 for 5. All with the cards that are built into the combo. So this is a really great line. And it's a great line to sort of sneak in here because we already have the starter built into this. So it doesn't feel like it muddies up the primary combo that we're going for here. So those are our 2 combo lines. That's what we're really going to be working towards through this. Some of the other cards we've got here. So Flick Flack. This is a defense reaction. If the next card you defend with this turn is a card named combo, or card with combo, sorry, it gains +2. So this is really great in some of the aggro matchups, or anybody who's going to be playing multiple attacks. You can use this as a defense reaction on the very first attack. And then on the second one, any card with combo is going to gain +2 on its defense. So it represents quite a bit of value for us on the defense. Ideally, we're not using this card much because we want to go mostly aggro. And so it is a 0-cost card that we can use for Katsu's ability. So Fluster Fist is another really good one. This is a 0-cost card, very useful. The text here isn't going to be very useful for us because we don't have Open the Center, but what this does represent for us in the game is a 0-cost card that we can use for Katsu's ability. It blocks for 3, which is always helpful, and then it attacks for 4. So this is our best rate on attack. A 0 for 4, where we don't need anything else to make that happen, is really great. This is one that's really wonderful as an extender. So if we have been able to run our Surging Strike, Descendant Gustwave, Bonds of Ancestry into Dishonor, and we used the Breeze Rider Boots to give all of our combo attacks go again, you'll notice here Dishonor doesn't have natural go again built into the card. And so if we've given it go again with the Breeze Rider Boots, we can extend that combo line out and potentially get in an additional 4 attack on there. Just pressing in more damage, requiring more cards out of their hand at that point. Even if they manage to block out Dishonor entirely and not take that on hit, Fluster Fist is a really great way to extend that out. I was able in one of my games to be able to get a Magenchi release into so Dishonor into Whelming, Magenchi, and then was able to get the Lord of Wind, so I kind of double comboed there. That was really cool. Very unlikely. It was super one-off sort of a situation, but anytime you can just chip in a little bit of extra damage for a hero like Katsu, where we've got this one big turn that we want to swing for, that's always going to be great. The next card I want to look at here is Plunder Run. So the next time an attack action card you control hits this turn, draw a card. So that's always going to be great. Anytime we can draw more cards, it's always going to be wonderful. And then if Plunder Run is played from Arsenal, the next attack action card you play this turn gains +3. So this is really great if we've been able to Arsenal this, preferably early in the game. This can pump up our starter even more. So if we Plunder Run into Surging Strike comes in for potentially 8, or if we've used the Goliath Gauntlets, it comes in for 10. And so a 10 that if it hits, we draw a card is huge value for us. That's exactly what we're looking for every single time with Katsu and with a ninja. So Plunder Run is a great add in this. It's always going to be great. One thing about this, as you build this deck, if you're looking at building this and then working into building a Classic Constructed deck, Plunder Run is currently banned in Classic Constructed, so you do lose that. There are some similar options for Classic Construction. We'll take a look at that once we build the Classic Constructed deck for Katsu. So the next one here is Sink Below, another defense reaction. This is a great card against some of the Go Tall decks like Azalea. Any of the Guardians are going to be really helpful. This is going to block for 4, and it says you may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck if you do draw a card. So it's a really great way for us to be able to filter. If you've got kind of a bunk hand, but you've got one of these, use this as a defense reaction, and it allows you to filter one card out, get rid of the worst card, and hopefully draw something decent in. Let's see here. The next one is Energy Potion. Destroy Energy Potion, gain 2 resources. Again, this is slow because it does require us to play the card out as an action, and then the next turn be able to use the Energy Potion for the resources. But this is another great way to be able to start off your combo without having to pitch, which means we get more cards in our hand to be able to start this out. So Energy Potion, I think, is a really great include here as well. Next up, we've got Knives Out. This is one that I really like. I've gotten it to work a couple of times, but in all honesty, this ends up being a card that is a blue pitch or a block 3 the majority of the time that I have it in my hand. But I do like to see this go. One thing I really love with this is that you can, the classic line for Katsu is Kadachi attack. And so that's sort of our like off combo hands can be Kadachi attack. With Knives Out, your Kadachis, instead of being a a 1 attack become a 2 attack. And so they might not block that first one. You play Knives Out as an attack reaction. Now it's a 2, and they have to think about, do I want to block this next one? Because they're gonna expect it, right? So I've run this where you do you pitch a card, you go Kodachi, Knives Out, so now you're representing 2 damage. Kodachi again for another 2, so we're at 4 damage so far. And then something like Be Like Water is really great because now that's 3. Fluster Fist is another one that's really good on there because we're not worried about having that card throughout the game, but it does represent pressing on some additional damage. So Kodachi Fluster Fist with the Knives Out does represent 8 damage on a turn where we might not have had much in our hand anyways. It can be a really good go. Silver Wind Shuriken I did talk about. So the downside of this, it doesn't block, and I have been in situations where I've got 2 of these in my hand. I can't block anything, and I just have to hold on to it and sort of wait. So I've thought about taking this down to just a 1 of, but I haven't made that call yet. So your mileage may vary there. Soulbead Strike, this is a great blue. It's a 0 cost card, so it works with Katsu's ability. It attacks for 2, and if it hits, it gains go again. So this is another one where if you just have kind of a dumpy hand, it can be a good Kodachi Soulbead Strike and represent 4 attack across 4 damage across 3 attacks. So it forces them to think about where they're going to block or if they're going to block. They might just take all of it, and then you do gain go again. So if you've got another card in your hand, potentially you could Soulbead Strike into Fluster Fist or something like that, and even further increase your potential damage. And then the last one here is Visit the Floating Dojo. This is a new Majestic out of the Outsiders set. So this is another Katsu specialization. It says put a Surging Strike and a card with combo from your graveyard on the top and or bottom of your deck. So you're able to go grab Surging Strike and one of the other combo pieces that you need. So either Surging Strike and Descendant Gust Wave, or Bonds of Ancestry, or Dishonor. You go Whelming Gust Wave and be able to put those on the top of your deck and know that your next turn you've got 2 of the potential 4 pieces that you're going to need for either of these combos. So this is a good card. I did have multiple of these. I did have 2 of these in there previously. The fact that it doesn't block at all is not great. And so it sucks to get one of these in your hand, be in a position where you need to block, and this is the card that you feel like you need the least, especially early game. But I do feel like having at least one of them in the deck can be really helpful. So that is where we are on the deck. We're going to take a look at a couple of hands just to sort of play out where this is going to be. So let's take a look here. We're going to go to the draw 4. This gives us our equipment, and this is our first 4 hands. So again, Visit the Floating Dojo, not great in your opening hand. You don't want that because you can't block with it and you can't really attack with it. But what we do see here is the opportunity for us to be able to utilize Knives Out. So we could use Visit the Floating Dojo. This is a 0 cost for 3 pitch. So we can pitch that to run our Kodachis. Use Knives Out for our Kodachi, so now those are both representing 2 attack each. And then something like Whelming Gust Wave, which is only going to come in for the 1. Or we could go, because we do have that 1 floating resource, we could go into Mugenshi Release. The downside of this is that we've only got 1 of these in the deck. And so if you burn it turn 1, it is nice that it represents 4 damage. It does kind of stink that you've kind of turned off that whole line. One nice thing about this is that they see this right away, and they have to respect that that line exists. They don't know what you've got in your deck necessarily. So this is a really interesting first hand. Not great, but hitting 3 attacks right off the bat can be really helpful. I wouldn't attempt to run Whelming Gust Wave into Mugenshi Release, only because this doesn't have go again right off the bat, so we do need Surging Strike to get that. So let's take a look here at another one. So we're going to take a look at 4 more. We've got Sink Below, really great option for a defense. Plunder Run. This is a great one to be able to get into our arsenal early game. And then we've got Lord of Wind and Whelming Gust Wave. So we could use Lord of Wind to be able to Kodachi, and then Whelming Gust Wave is going to represent 3. It's not going to get us anything extra there, but this could be a decent hand to be able to block and then represent, 2 damage from our 2 Kodachis and then 3 for the Whelming Gust Wave. So presenting 5 damage across 3 attacks is going to force them to decide where they're going to attack. And then putting Plunder Run in our arsenal is going to turn on this second piece of the text, which is going to allow us to potentially run our big combo with a really, really strong start. So, and then let's take a look here. So we've got our Surging Strike now. Silverwood Shuriken, so that's a really good one to be able to get out on the board. So that's a really great starter there. It also represents some good pitch for us. We've got Surging Strike, and we've got Whelming Gust Wave and Bonds of Ancestry. So this is a really great opportunity. We're now into our 3rd hand here if we're kind of playing this out. This is a really great point for us to be able to look at, can we get our combo off? And so one thing we're going to look at here is we've got our Surging Strike. That's going to give us the ability to go really big there. So we've got 4 with the Surging Strike. We've got our Plunder Run in our arsenal, and so that's going to turn on. That's now going to be a 7, and then we've got our Goliath Gauntlet, which is going to turn that into a 9. So because it's the yellow, we don't get the 10, but presenting 9 damage right off the bat like that can be really, really great. And then it has Go Again. We do have the ability to use our Deep Blue because we could get rid of either Whelming Gust Wave or Silverwind Shuriken to turn that on, so we can get that for free, or we could use Silverwind Shuriken as our pitch cost for that and turn that on and float 1 additional as well. And then we also have Whelming Gust Wave here, which would give us the ability to Katsu into our second piece. The one downside of this right here is that we currently don't have a way to get the last piece. And so our Bonds of Ancestry would help us with some of that, but we haven't put anything into our discard pile yet that's going to get us Dishonor or anything else really that's going to be super helpful. And so this might be a really good opportunity to go use the Silverwood Shuriken to pay for Surging Strike and go Silverwood Shuriken Surging Strike into Whelming Gust Wave, and that's going to get us represent 4 here and then 4 there and a card draw, and that might potentially be the next piece that we need. It might be a card that would allow us to Katsu into the next piece that we need for that. So that could be another chip damage. We'll go 1 more hand here. So we've got Energy Potion, Surging Strike, a blue Whelming Gust Wave, and an Ancestral Empowerment. So again, this is a decent starting point. We could arsenal this Surging Strike. We could play out the Energy Potion. We could go Surging Strike, pitching the Whelming Gust Wave, Ancestral Empowerment to get that draw. So this would represent a 6 potential damage. And then use that Go Again to just play into this Energy Potion so that we can hit a combo in another turn. So there's a lot of really good options here. Kind of the ideal that we're going to want to see here is to have our that Plunder Run in Arsenal can be really, really helpful, but not really a needed thing. It's just really beneficial. But we're going to need to have Surging Strike in hand. We're going to probably want something that we can put on the bottom of our deck to activate Deep Blue, or we're going to want the Energy Potion on the board because that's going to be really helpful to start this off. We're going to need a 0 cost in our hand that we can use to trigger Katsu's ability so that we can search for whatever we're missing. And then one thing that I have found really helpful is actually to work to have just one of our Dishonors in our discard pile or in our graveyard here, because then we can use. Let me see if I can find. Oh nope, it won't let me go. if we go back to the card list here, with Bonds of Ancestry, it allows us to go find a card in our graveyard, banish it, and then get the other copy of it out of our deck. And so I like to either block or play out one of those Dishonors early in the game, and then keep one that I've just pitched into using another card, because then I know that it's in my deck, and I can use Bonds of Ancestry to finish out that. So you can end up with all of those cards in hand, depending on what you've got to pitch, and then use some of those additional draws to be able to work through extending that. But what you really need in hand, or between the 4 cards in your hand and then your arsenal, you're going to need to have Surging Strike, and then typically either Bonds of Ancestry or Descendant Gustwave, and then you need a 0 cost card that you can use to Katsu into the next one, and then Bonds of Ancestry, you're going to use this to find your Dishonor, and that's going to allow you to complete that combo up. When this line first came out, I thought that's really hard to do, but it's actually, as you play this out, it's actually not that hard to make it work pretty consistently. Ideally, you're going to want to get that off at least once per game, maybe twice if you can play your cards right. This, again, could represent anywhere from 5 to 10 damage. Descendant Gustwave is going to come in for 5 to potentially 6 if we've got Silverwood Shuriken or the Breaking Scales. Bonds of Ancestry is going to come in for 4 to 5, depending on what other pieces you have of this. And then Dishonor is going to come in for 4 in that line, depending on what other, 4 to 5, depending on what other pieces you've got there. So that gives us, kind of maximum. We've got 10 here, 15, 19, and let's say this one's 5. So that's potentially 24. It does take some setup to get here, but that's a game ender. Like they can't really block all of that, and if they do a really good job of blocking it, they're taking the next turn off. So all it takes is for you to be able to present this, and then be able to follow up and take over the tempo once you've forced them out of a hand. That's the big one here. The Magenchi release into the Lord of Wind is another really great one. But really, we're hoping to get that Dishonor line off. We're hoping to take away their hero abilities. And really, the whole goal here is to go wide. We want 3, 4, 5 attacks in a row as often as we can get it. Whether that is just Kodachi, Flusterfist, or the full combo line. We want to try to pack as much in as possible, as consistently as possible, to be able to chip away damage and then have one really big turn that's going to really take the game for us. So that is Katsu in a nutshell. This is kind of the big thing that we're looking for here with Katsu, is to try to help you, or with this deck tick, is to try to help you understand what's going on with the hero and what they're looking for you to play, and then give you some ideas on how to build this. If you have any questions, or you've played this and got any tips or tricks, throw something down in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you guys and respond and build an online community just as much as we're building the community here that we love to play with. So let me know how this does for you. I'm going to be playing Katsu at our Armory events here moving forward, as we prep for the Road to Nationals that's coming up here pretty soon for us. So that's all that I've got for you. Once again, thanks for spending your afternoon with us. My name is Tony with King's Table Gaming. Have a great rest of your day.